Swadika, welcome back once again. Our weather event activity with the AI Governance Week 2026 has been complete with the official opening ceremony already. Now it's time we would like to greeting for all the viewers via Zoom. We have live Facebook of the ETDA Thailand and also with the YouTube of the ETDA Thailand as well. Right now it's time to starting with our first topic highlight today that we deeply honor from our key speaker that who will be here to share with for all of you that what about with the value of the AI technology and absolutely that how to innovation can scale up with the safety with the AI innovation technology as well. With the first topic highlight is AI governance guardrail and ensuring safe and responsible innovation. Right now it's time, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, if all of you are ready, so please give a round of applause for welcome Professor Dr. Urs Gasser, Chairperson of International Policy Advisor Panel, IPAP, AIGPC, and Dean of School of Social Science and Technology at the Technical University of Munich, or TUM, on the stage. Right now it's time, distinguished guests, please give a big round of applause for one more time.
Sawadee I'm so delighted and honored to be here and kick us off. I would like to offer 10 observations, and I want to be upfront. These are fairly personal observations on capacity, on learning, and responsible AI. And I would like to do so at this very special moment in time where indeed we're transitioning from drafting AI principles and best practices to actually on-the-ground practices. And honestly, I couldn't imagine a better place to have this conversation than here in Bangkok in Thailand, because there's so much happening right now in this region. I had the great pleasure to attend on Friday the AI Visionaries program, also hosted by ETA and the AI Governance Practice Center. And it was amazing to see policymakers, regulators, leaders coming from Bhutan, Bangladesh, India, Indonesia, the Philippines, of course, Thailand, and much beyond, coming together to compare notes, to discuss the future of AI, national policies, but also governance frameworks. And I would like to pause for a second here and congratulate the minister and the ETA leadership team, but also actually the ETA ground team for the foresight that you've had about 5-6 years ago to build this practice center. This was long before the ChatGPT moment came, and build a platform that's empowering, capacity building, empowering in the region, becoming a true learning platform. And on behalf of the International Policy Advisory Panel, which I chair, again, I hope you accept our congratulations for this not only regional effort, but also an effort of global importance. So let me start with the first observation. Also connecting the dots by looking back and looking forward. The first observation is we've come a long way. Over the past 10 years, indeed, we've seen a flourishing of AI ethics principles, of AI governance principles, both at the international level, OECD, UNESCO was already mentioned, many more nation state, but also companies have come up with AI principles. We have seen in parallel, actually lawmakers and regulators sometimes stepping in and turning some of these principles into actual law. And if we look at the AI governance landscape today, we see some sort of a rich picture with different countries taking different approaches to AI governance. So what we see is a diversity of ways how AI governance is approached. You see countries like and regions like the European Union enacting comprehensive laws that seek to regulate AI. The EU AI Act, I'm sure all of you have heard about it. You see countries that rely more heavily on best practices and industry practices. Take Singapore as an example, working with a risk management framework. And you see countries in between, trying to keep some sort of a balance between soft law and hard law approaches, between sectorial approaches and more holistic regulation. And so the first point I really want to share with you is AI governance today is really a portfolio of approaches. And if you look into the future, this would be my prediction, it's very unlikely that we see a global uniform approach to AI governance. We have to embrace and get ready for a fairly diverse ecosystem of AI governance. This leads me to my second observation, and the clicker doesn't work. Sorry, if someone could forward the slide. Could someone please advance the slide because the clicker isn't working? If you could forward the slide, please. Excellent. Thank you. So within this diversity, it's very likely that we will see continuing fragmentation. So I mentioned already, it's unlikely that we will see a uniform approach to AI globally, to AI governance, and the result will be fragmentation. And this is largely shaped by geopolitics and very divergent interests among regions and nations. But it's also fair to say, in all likelihood, and we see it already emerging, it was mentioned, that there are areas of collaboration. Especially when it comes to things like AI safety, we already see AI safety institutes working together across different regions, Latin America, ASEAN, and the like. So we will, in all likelihood, see moments of cooperation working on specific problems where industry, academia, policymakers actually will collaborate despite the fragmentation that we see. But this cooperation, in all likelihood, will be specific. And again, that's why a platform like the AI Governance Practice Center here in Thailand is so important, because it enables this sort of collaboration at the regional level. Now, the third observation, and this has been introduced already, and we will talk more about it throughout the entire week, is of course that the action has already moved from lawmaking, regulation, and principles towards actual implementation. And during the week, also our partners from industry will share concrete ways how to implement AI best practices at the organizational level, whether it's in organizations of the private sector or within the government. I would argue we have to take things even a step further. It's not only about red teaming and building compliance infrastructure. No, actually what we need is we need to build a culture of AI governance. We need to build capacity, awareness, literacy around AI. And I'm saying that against the backdrop of someone who has been studying data protection and privacy laws and regulations over many years. You know, it's one thing to create compliance infrastructure. It's one thing to create regulations. But ultimately, what makes the difference, what makes responsible use of technology possible, is a culture of responsibility. And I feel we're only at the beginning of building this culture. not only so much looking at technology development, but also technology deployment and usage. So my prediction now moving forward after looking backward is we need even more culture building and empowerment. And again, you can see how AIGPC is helping on this front too. So it's advancing here, but not here. So, okay, I get it. So let me talk about a few complications. While I emphasized the importance of implementation, and the minister mentioned it as well, we also need to be aware that in addition to implementations, challenges will remain at the policy level, at the level of goal setting. What is likely to happen, and what we already see emerging, is actually that AI governance and policy is an area full of friction, not only at the global stage, but also at the national stage. Just follow what's happening currently in the US with Anthropic, right? As an example. So, or look towards Europe. You see the struggle by policymakers and regulators, by societies, frankly. On the one hand side, yes, we need the best available AI to address some of the big global challenges of our time. At the same time, there are trade-offs. There are safety and security risks. Increasingly, there's worry about national security risks, cybersecurity risks. And so, as societies, as governments, as decision makers, we are increasingly struggling how to align competing goals. And I think as a matter of mindset, it will be very important for all of us who are involved in these conversations not to pretend that these frictions will go away. We will have to live with competing goals, and we have to balance and manage these differences as we go forward. Europe, again, is a great illustration right now because I mentioned earlier on the AI Act, which was celebrated by many. And just a few months in, the same European Commission is now correcting course and say, well, maybe we need to simplify the law that we just enacted. So maybe we, regulated too much, and we now need to streamline certain processes to bolster innovation. And so that's just an example where you see real time, within a very short period of time, a very sophisticated policymaker, some sort of struggling with the kind of tensions I mentioned by way of example. But the complications are going a step further, I think, for policymakers and regulators in particular. And that is, governments are wearing multiple hats simultaneously. Governments, and we've heard it before, right, have an interest that AI is deployed and used for economic growth, to create more efficient transportation systems, to enhance safety of public infrastructure. The list is long of benefits of AI usage. But at the same time, in addition to promoting technology, governments are also regulating the very technology they're promoting, drawing red lines or constraining certain uses over others. So governments need to prepare also how to deal with role conflicts. For instance, the European Union, again, as an illustration, has regulated high-risk uses of AI, for instance, in law enforcement and the justice system. And by the way, justice will be one deep dive later today and throughout the week, the use of AI to improve and enhance access to justice. But the same use that we think has the potential to enhance access to justice is also high risk for individual rights and civil liberties. So again, you see a field of tension, and the big challenge ahead is not to find a silver bullet solution to all of these tensions, but really build the capacity to navigate what I would call is a messy landscape of AI governance. Let me shift gears a little bit and get a bit more specific by highlighting 2 or 3 things that are maybe worth keeping in mind as we go into this week. This week we will talk quite a bit about technical standards, about technical mechanisms to AI governance. We'll talk about auditing, about certification, about benchmarking, and this level of infrastructure, the kind of tools of AI governance, right, that help us to move from principles to actual practices are extremely important. Yet again, make no mistake, as the experts in the room, of course, will know, this layer of standards and technical approaches is also fairly diverse and not easy to navigate. And actually what we're seeing right now is also, again, a competition among regions, among countries, among companies who will basically put forward standards that then are later adopted and set the level playing field. So just keep in mind as we move now towards practice and implementation, the politics doesn't end with laws and policies. It continues also in the realm of technology. Now, one direct consequence of what I have been describing so far, which is this diverse, pluralistic picture of AI governance, whether we look at the approaches that nation states take, you remember the first slide, right? Or whether we look at the diversity of benchmark standards, auditing, tools, whatever it is, one of the challenges is that we need to navigate increasingly conflicting or competing standards and norms and rules. Again, just by way of illustration, I bring you an example from the EU AI Act, and you don't need to read the details, you can't, but the impression of the picture is what counts here. This illustration on the right side shows you what the number of different laws that are invoked in the EU AI Act. Now imagine you're in charge with implementing the AI Act in your organization. You don't only have to manage the AI Act, you have to manage interfaces to many different legal provisions, sectorial laws. To give an example, if you're in health, you can't look only to the AI Act. You have sectorial AI laws applied to, let's say, medical AI. And the problem is, of course, these different rules and norms haven't been written at the same time. So they are not perfectly aligned. And again, I'm using it only as illustration to showcase that we're not moving in some sort of a harmonious AI governance landscape. No, it's one full of friction. And the whole point is that we need to prepare ourselves to manage this friction. So the key challenge ahead of all of us, whether at the national level, at the regional level, or at the level of an individual firm, is really to build the capacity, the know-how, but also the ability to learn, as I will share in the last slide, to deal with this diversity of norms, rules, and standards. And importantly, yes, we need technical skills, we need technical capabilities, but we also need organizational capacity. this is not to be underestimated. You know, if you look at the AI Act in Europe as example, there's a lot of capacity in the bureaucracy to administer the AI Act. But if you move to other regions, including here, you may have very different capacities. And so how do we think about these organizational requirements to AI governance, both at the level of government, but also at the level of states? And importantly, the human layer, the skills, the literacies, how do we educate, train our staff, our employees at scale? Just as a footnote and anecdote, I served as an advisor to Angela Merkel in Germany a few years ago on digital transformation issues. And one question was about upskilling of civil servants. This was pre-AI, this was still digital. You know, a country like Germany, you're talking about 600,000 people you need to upscale. How are you going to do that? So I think this human level and the human questions will be very important to build this human capacity. What does it mean for the educational system? What does it mean for higher education? But also for primary schools, for STEM education. Where do we start? So this question of capacity building also at the human level, not only the technical level, is going to be a key factor of success when we're interested in promoting the responsible use of AI. During this week and even later today, again, as I mentioned before, there will be important work presented about using benchmarks and auditing and evaluation and red teaming mechanisms as a tool of AI governance, as a way to put principles into practice. And this is really important. Yet, we also need to be aware that even the best technical tools go only so far. We should avoid the temptation to think that checklists or sophisticated auditing protocols will leave us with responsible AI. It's a starting point, but not an end point. I give you an example that I find particularly intriguing. There is now an increasing number of studies being published that demonstrate how difficult it is actually to govern AI once it's deployed. So certain AI systems, particularly generative AI, but also other tools, continue to evolve when they're used. And so safety checks at the moment when you put them on the market will not necessarily ensure that nothing bad happens after deployment. And so there's an interesting complexity opening up that AI tools, certain AI systems start to understand when they are tested and start to behave differently at this moment. So you see, I'm using that a little bit to preview the kind of questions we are likely going to see also at the technical level that should remind us that yes, we want to get practical and there are lots of tools, so there is good news. We can do a lot of things to ensure safety of AI, but there are also blind spots and moving elements that we haven't fully figured out. So let me end with the last observation that I would like to offer to you. And that's essentially my biggest point. I started with the observation that we have come a long way over the past 10 years, from drafting principles, now having these detailed discussion, a full week, where we zoom in and get very specific how to govern AI, how to promote the responsible deployment and use of AI. We've come a long way, no question about it. At the same time, I believe we're still at the very beginning of figuring out what good governance means. I shared a few points why I believe it's a fairly messy picture and will remain a challenging ecosystem to navigate. To break it down a little bit further and to be provocative, I think the real challenge is twofold. One, as societies, we haven't really fully figured out where we want to go with this AI thing. Whether you take the stories from the US, whether you look at the examples I offered from the EU, you know, one day it's like that, the next day is a little bit more like that. So we have a problem to set goals because we still fully don't understand where this is going. This AI meets society, meets the planet. So we have uncertainty around goals. But we have a second uncertainty, and that is whether the tools we're developing are really working as tools of governance. I know the guy who wrote a third of the AI Act in Europe. He would readily admit and say whether this is going to work or not, what we wrote in this law, whether this works out in practice, not sure. So where does that leave us if we have a double challenge? One, we're not sure about the goals. And second, we're not sure that we figured out the instruments. I think the main takeaway and what we need to design for is for learning institutions. This sounds simple, but I think we are only at the very beginning to capture what learning institutions mean. We have spent hundreds of years to figure out what individual learning means. We've built school systems, we've built research on learning. But what does it mean to learn as a policymaker? What does it mean to learn as an organization? What kind of interfaces and mechanisms do we need? What kind of mindset do we need to build? What's the infrastructure that we need to create? I believe that's the next frontier of AI governance. And this week, for sure, will be a great starting point to continue learning from each other because learning will be key in all of that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Professor Dr. Urs Gasser, for your time, and so please remain on the stage. Yes, right now it's time. Distinguished guests, if you have any questions, so please do not hesitate to make any question with our key speakers. Right now, if you have any question, you can raise your hands up in this time. And or if no more, when we have the coffee break time, you can talk each other with our key speaker as well. So now it's time, so please give a big round of applause for thank you, Professor Dr. Urs Gasser, for one more time. All right now it's time. Up next, we would like to invite our next key person to be here on this stage and let's share us with about the next topic, with the topic of connecting the right dots of ethical AI and governance ETDA rails in AI governance and building AIGPC as a regional hub. Today, we deeply honor from Executive Director from ETDA. It's time. Please give a round of applause for welcome Dr. Shaishana Mitpan on the stage.
Sawasdee krap, and good morning. Today is another day that ETDA is navigating Thailand through AI journey. And thank you very much, Professor Urs Gasser, for sharing us with the 10 observations, which give us mixed feelings. We are moving forward. Thailand is moving forward as a player in the world, in the region. But we are not sure, as Professor Gasser said, where are we going with the AI governance? And how we are moving is right or not. Because the tools that we are exploring is still yet to show the results. So, what do we do in Thailand? Since we are not sure what tools are effective to work with AI at the moment, we are watching, observing, like Professor Urs shared with us 10 observations today, and trying to identify our needs in terms of economic development, in terms of social welfare, how AI fits into Thai culture. And we are using AI Governance Center as a tool to make observation, to gauge the risk that we're experiencing in Thailand, to observe the risk, the incidents being examined by different governance model, the governments also in different countries, addressing all these different issues. We started AIGC in 2022, I believe. That was even before the ChatGPT and the Gen AI popularity. Because Professor Gasser brought the concept of AI governance from the EU and shared with us different perspectives around the world. So that we had a strong foundation of understanding AI governance different models. We have been studying that for the past few years. We are still deciding if Thailand needs the law to govern AI. I personally believe that we need some kind of law. What kind we'll be discussing during these 5 days. In particular, I think on day 3 or 4, we'll be sharing the draft law. This will be the 3rd draft of Thailand, right? Because things are changing. How things are changing. For example, the Gen AI is a revolutionary tool that people can use and enjoy. A country can use and enjoy the benefit. But with restriction. The US has put that restriction for certain tools. Why? Have we seen this before? Are you familiar with cryptography? It's a technology that can provide confidentiality and also authentication integrity through mathematical formula. It was viewed as weapon in certain economies. Export of cryptography technology was controlled. We are seeing that again here with the AI. Is it a weapon? Or is it a tool that will enable competitor to advance as fast as the developed countries moving? So we are seeing all these different tension. As people with tension come to Thailand, they come for Thai massage, right? We are a good place to understand tension in our own way. We have a way to relax, relieve the tension, right? And I believe that AIGPC, AI Governance Practice Center, will be a wonderful platform for relieving tension. How are we going about doing that? As the first observation that Professor Gasser has made, we are seeing different governance models around the world. We are trying to understand them. Make sure that we really understand them by connecting different dots. AI experts, developers, implementers, government, policymakers. Based on observation, we put up a catalog. We arrange a network of policymakers to give different opinions, to share their view, so that we can understand what kind of landscape we are within. What causes pain? What causes tension? right? Once we have a good understanding, then we can try to apply some methods to relieve all those different tensions. When you have pain in the neck, when you have pain in your different parts of body, different methods can be used to relieve the pain. Right? We don't have one size fit all tools. If we understand the pain, we understand the tools, potentially we can apply appropriate tools for different pains. Right? That's the understanding of current scenarios, different tools that we can use. Next, I think we need monsieur, right? the person who provide messaging service, right? That's capacity building part of AIGPC work. So just past week, we understand the context of different tensions around the world. But we believe that if we can share the knowledge, the concern, with a hope that we can make some senses out of it and find some common goals, we can go in our separate way, but together as a group of countries that try to achieve the same goal of AI governance in different countries, but different methodology, different pains. And that's what we are trying to do last week. So we brought in policymakers and share different views and different AI governance models. With different particular pains in different countries, we provide certain set of tools. They used different tools for their different pains. But in the end, we want to make sure that we have the same common goal of relieving the pains that we have. That's one part of the capacity building that we are trying to do locally and also in the regional level. Next, the keyword from the previous presentation is culture, which is very, very important. Once we have the principle, we have to understand the principles. We have to make interpretation of the principle within our own context. Our own meaning at the national level, regional level, and also at the organizational level and individual levels. With a good understanding, we hope to develop shared values for AI adoption in Thailand, in the region, that is in line with the global shared values. With that understanding, with identified shared values, we can adjust our own existing culture to embrace AI technologies. Just this weekend, we have been working with our partner ministry, Ministry of Higher Education, Science and Innovation, trying to address some small issues with AI governance. That small issue that we identify belongs to the schools. Last year, we worked with an organization under the ministry. It's MHESI. It's very long, so I use the abbreviation. To come up with a course on AI ethics for secondary schools. We have trained 100 teachers as a pilot project. We want to make sure that all these teachers understand AI ethics at a global level. We want them to understand AI governance guideline, Gen AI governance guideline that ETDA has been trying to simplify the recommendation that's so complicated. Right? With that understanding, we hope the teacher will be able to allow the use of AI in classroom in a productive way to improve learning. That's the first goal that we did earlier. But yesterday, we want to make sure that within the school, AI adoption at this teacher level, at a school level, is also moving in a right direction, which is in line with the value of AI governance. That is, in that process of capacity building, we are trying also to build a culture. We get different stakeholders involved, the teachers, the school management team, the school compliance team. We also took into account the parents, the students. They all came yesterday and on Saturday to understand AI governance in school. We have experimented EIA, Ethical Impact Assessment, that UNESCO has published as a tool. We localize it, trying to understand the scope of using AI at school, understand how to map the school activity with AI against the ethics, trying to identify the risk of using AI in school. There was a parent yesterday share a case of young children, young students using AI to modify their friends' images in inappropriate way and circulate that within the school as a case of bullying. Then the discussion was, how do we prevent it? How do we monitor? And if the case happened, how does the school take care of all those different cases? How do we do with the student who bullied their friend? In that particular case that was raised yesterday, the student was expelled. We were not sure was that the right way to go, right? The discussion is still ongoing. And I think the process is very important for building the culture, understanding the value, understanding the risk of adopting AI. Is it going to be too soon? I believe not. But how do we adopt it quickly with awareness and tools that we can mitigate the risk? All these different issues and topics will be discussed throughout this week. We have put an emphasis for this year on justice processes and education systems. So there will be some activities and discussion on these two particular topics during this week. And I hope AIGPC, along with our partner, I see representative from IRK, Slovenia's our counterpart, which will be a dot in our network. We hope that we find the right dots during this week. That doesn't mean they're wrong dots, but the right for you, right dots for you. Because different persons have different pains. Right medicine, right partner. We hope you can find the right dots in this week. And we want your feedback. If you cannot find one, what you need. And we hope AIGPC will be a platform to do that for Thailand, leverage international network so that we can have more dots for you to connect. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Shachanamithpan, for your time and for sharing us with any kind of the solutions of the AI technology. So now this time, distinguished guests, we would like to inform all of you, you can spend this time. If you have any question, you can talk each other with our key speakers, and for the outside that we prepare already for all the for all the coffee break and for all the refreshment already. We have a short break around 10 or 15 minutes, we will come back once again. So now it's time, distinguished guests, enjoy your break time. Thank you so much. สวัสดีค่ะ Distinguished guests, right now we would like to welcome all of you. So please turn back to your seat with our up next topic highlight. We will start in shortly. Remind once again, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome all of you turn back to your seat. We will start with our next topic in a few minutes. And this time, you can bring for all refreshment and for all coffee break to eat inside in this room activity. Thank you for your kind cooperations. Sawadika, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, right now it's time to starting for our next topic highlight. We would like to invite all of you, so please turn back to your seat. And now, if you join with the coffee break time, you can bring with for all refreshment and coffee break to eat inside in this room activity. Now, this time, invite all of you, please turn back to your seat. Thank you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, right now it's time to starting with our next topic highlight. We would like to invite all of you, so please turn back to your seat. And now, if you join with the coffee break time and for all refreshment, you can bring it all to eat inside in this room activity. Now, this time, please welcome all of you. Please do not hesitate to turn back to your seat. And starting with our next topic highlight, please welcome all of you. Thank you for your kind cooperations. สวัสดีค่ะ Welcome, distinguished guests, back to your seat once again. And after you enjoyed with the coffee break time already, and now it's time we would like to welcome for all the viewers via online back once again. So up next, before we have a lunch time, we would like to inform all of you. Up next, this is a very highlight because that we receive with the ordinary forum in any sector, and of course with our key speakers that he will be here on the upstairs on the stage to sharing us with a panel discussion time together with the topic of bridging the gap from global AI governance framework to real world practice. So distinguished guests around the world, many AI governance principle, framework, and standards are emerging. The challenge now is implementation, how to make them practical, actionable, and relevant for organization, regulator, and society. So now this time, distinguished guests, we would like to invite our key speaker on the stage with the first one that his title is Associate Program Specialist for Education from UNESCO. Please give it a round for welcome Mr. Dean Chern. Welcome. And up next, she will come up via the online, and her title is Economies and Policy Analysis, Science, Technology and Innovation Directorate, Artificial Intelligence and Emerging Digital Technology Division, or OECD. So it's time, please welcome Miss Lucia Lasso via online. Up next, so please welcome Chief Operating Officer, International Research Center on Artificial Intelligence, IRCAI, Slovenia. Please welcome Mr. Davor Oleg. Up next, his title is Managing Director from IBM Thailand, Mr. Anotai Wetayakorn. And up next, with our moderator on the stage, her title is AIGPC Expert Fellow. Please welcome Dr. Panrapi Rapipan on the stage. And for our discussion time for the panel discussion from our key speakers ready. Anyone distinguished guests, please give a round of applause for one more time.
All right, thank you. This morning, we have heard that AI governance has exists and that AI governance can actually support innovation. So for this session, we will go more practical with the topic, which is the bridging the gap from global AI governance frameworks to real-world practice. Let's begin our discussion with the first question that I will ask all of you here, including from online. And the first question is, in your view, what is the single biggest reason global frameworks often stall before they reach real world practice? Let me ask the one that closest to me, Mr. Dinchin.
Thank you, moderator, for asking the question. And first of all, before I answer the question, I'd like to thank the organizers for inviting UNESCO regional office in Bangkok to be part of this distinguished panel. I'm very honored to be among the experts on this panel. So, okay, you really don't start with the easy one. This is actually a very thorny question, but let me start with one keyword. I think the single biggest reason, as you asked, would be ownership, national ownership. So whatever global recommendations are adopted at the global level, when we talk about AI governance, the first that comes to mind is, of course, the recommendation on the ethics of artificial intelligence. And I think a lot of the participants already know very well about. So you have these global recommendations that are adopted at the UNESCO General Conference level, 193 member states, everyone clap their hands, great. So what? The key here is to contextualize these global recommendations. And first step is to articulate the relevance of these global recommendations to the national context. AI governance for what? It's not AI governance for AI per se, but AI governance for example, shaping the country as the next competitive technological hub in the region. It can be AI governance for enhancing the quality of education to make education more inclusive and equitable. It could be AI governance for example, the health industry. So these are fundamental questions that need to be answered at the country level to articulate the relevance of these global recommendations to national development and to devise policies and implementation pathways to translate that strategic vision into concrete actions at the country level. And I would also like to insist on the second keyword, which is consistency. So ownership and consistency. You can have the best policies, but they will not be able to be implemented if there's no consistent leadership, if there's no consistent investment in the human capital and institutions to translate those policies into reality. So I will end here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And how about you? In your opinion, what make the global framework often stall before the reach real world practice?
Thank you very much. I think it's a really good question. But I'm going to say thank you first as well. Thank you to the new C2C Center for inviting us, which is our sister Category 2 center in AI here in Thailand. I think probably from our perspective, the single biggest sort of like gap between major frameworks, policy frameworks, and sort of like real implementation would have been probably most likely the pace of innovation in the space of AI, followed by, well, I wouldn't say followed by, but probably combined with industrial innovation and university-based innovation. And with that, conclusively at the end, probably funding, I would say. But definitely that pace is simply too fast, or was very, very fast until now, which presumably would have been slowing down, but probably not. So I think that's the main thing that we're looking at from our perspective, which would have been at the intersection of research and practice.
How about you from IBM as a private sector, Kun Anothai?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. I think this is a great question for setting the context of the conversation. I believe from this morning until now, we keep hearing about AI governance, right? We have more than enough the global principle, but how to bridge from the global principle to make responsible AI, which I believe the responsible AI is a journey. The destination is a trustworthy AI. That's where we want to achieve. To bridge from there to the trustworthy AI is not an easy task. It's very challenging. From my perspective, right, the biggest issue is most of the framework is actually remain at the very high level principle. Okay, but in the real world, an organization needs something more practical, right? Organization need so-called the operational mechanism to make it work. But when we look around to the society level or even to the national level or in the corporate level, so everyone actually agree, right, about the fairness, trustworthy, transparency or the accountability, even the human oversight. But the challenge is who own it, how it is measured, right? And where does it sit in the AI life cycle, especially what happened when something goes wrong, right? It's back to the real world practical that needed, right? I believe organization, right, governments, so on and so forth, really need to move the AI governance, right, from the policy document into the workflow. That's important. So put it this way, moving from the playbook to the run book, right? Embedded, the governance into a model development, into the procurement, into deployment, or even into the monitoring and auditing. That kind of process need to be end to end, right? So the organization can make it work. So in summary, the AI governance will fail if it's staying in the broad room and never reach the build room. That's what my thought. Thanks.
All right, thank you. And we also have Miss Lucia Rosso joining us online from OECD. I would like to ask the same question as everyone. In your
Yes,
view, yes,
sorry.
okay. Okay, the question
Okay.
is, what is the single biggest reason global framework often stall before they reach real world practice?
Thank you. And first of all, thank you for inviting me. It is a pleasure to be here with you today. So I think I would echo things that have already been said. Of course, the biggest theme is that we see this implementation gap between these high-level principles and what happens in practice. And I think the colleague from UNESCO has pointed to the UNESCO recommendation. Also, the OECD adopted the OECD recommendation in 2019, and we have many such principles already in place. I think across the world, across all these principles, there is a broad agreement on the values that should guide AI. We have heard some of them, the trustworthiness of AI, human rights, transparency, accountability, robustness, safety. And of course, the challenge is how to turn them into decisions that then ministries, regulators, companies, and public administrations can actually implement. So the gap is that countries and governments encounter practical questions such as which institutions should lead, how risks should be prioritized, how responsibility should be shared across ministries. And so all of these questions, of course, need a bridge between what that by nature, and of course it is designed to be so, defines the what into how we get there. And as it has already been said, implementation always happens in a specific context with different legal systems, institutional capacities, economic realities that have also been suggested. And so what we should do now, and what at the OECD we are doing now, is to provide such practical guidance so that countries also have that leaders, that pointers to how things should be done in practice. For instance, we have had the pleasure to have 2 co-creation workshops here in Thailand with countries from Southeast Asia to develop an OECD AI policy toolkit that is already online, that really starts and sets that path for countries to better understand what in practice means to implement the principles that are in the OECD recommendation. So what does it mean to have research that works for AI? What are some good practices that we have seen in other countries? And so this, I think, is what we should all try to do, but not only international organizations. Of course, what I said is co-creation workshop meant having policymakers in the room, having stakeholders in the room who together build these tools and also share their experiences and share the knowledge, so that in this fast moving environment and in this technology that is evolving at a pace that is, of course, quicker than governments, we can all learn together and try together and find together the best tool that suits a specific context.
Okay, Mr.
Thank you.
Russo, let me ask you one more question, which is the problem that many organizations has confront. Right now, different countries and organizations use different rules and standards. How do we reduce this complexity so the organization will not feel like this is too difficult to apply in practice?
Thank you. And again, you touch upon a point that is at the heart of our work. I think that, as you said, we have different legal systems and institutions and also priorities that inevitably, naturally, will lead to different governance models. I think the objective should not be to make every country adopt the same rule, but the objective should be to aim for interoperability. What does interoperability mean? It means that different approaches remain understandable and compatible because they're built around common concepts such as comparable risk management approaches and shared technical foundation. The OECD principles, once again, have played an important role in creating that common language internationally. For instance, the definition of an AI system is used today in the UAI Act, the Council of Europe Convention, and other approaches across the US and Japan. And so this shared vocabulary acts as a foundation so that when then there is so that they can understand each other. And then once again, going from a definition that can still be at a high level into something more practical. When I talk about interoperability, I talk about also some operational interoperability. An example here would be the G7 Hiroshima AI reporting framework that is a reporting framework for developers and deployers of AI systems across the supply chain that provides this organization with a common structure for reporting how they govern advanced AI systems. And so by giving these governance practices, by providing a structured framework and a place where to report their governance structures, it makes it easier to understand across jurisdiction, even when regulations different. And I know we'll touch perhaps upon standards later, but technical standards are another piece of the puzzle because they provide these common methods for implementing requirements such as risk management, documentation, and testing. So once again, I think I would like to reiterate that the objective with interoperability is not harmonizing every law, but reducing this fragmentation so that governments, businesses, and citizens can navigate AI governance with more clarity and more confidence. Thank you.
Interoperability is the key. Thank you very much. And in the opinion of UNESCO, let me ask Mr. Chen the same question. How do we reduce the complexity so the organization do not feel that these frameworks are too difficult to put into practice?
Thank you so much. Very important practical question. So I mentioned the UNESCO normative instrument on the ethics of artificial intelligence, which is the recommendation on the ethics of AI that was adopted in 2021 by all UNESCO member states. So this is the first UN normative instrument that is universally accepted and outlines the key principles and values to guide AI governance, right? And to translate this high-level recommendation into practice, we have also developed a series of platforms, resources, and tools to exactly do what our colleague from OECD mentioned, right? The common understanding, speaking the common language on AI governance. So to give an example, last year, we had the honor of having Thailand to host the third UNESCO Ethics of AI Global Forum, right, in Bangkok. So this is a series of global forums that we try to do every year to bring countries all over the world together to dialogue on AI governance and to converge to a common language on AI governance. The second platform being the UNESCO Observatory on AI Ethics and Governance. So this is an online platform that we have developed and includes a series of country profiles on the AI regulations, laws, and also focusing on the countries that have already conducted the UNESCO readiness assessment for AI. So this is called AI readiness assessment methodology. This is the tool that we develop for countries to assess the readiness of their systems across different sectors. So all the way from institutional readiness to education to health, to help countries to develop a roadmap for ethical and inclusive AI governance. The fourth component I would like to mention here is that we have developed a series of networks from different stakeholders. So we have networks of expert on AI ethics without borders. We have women in ethics of AI network. Most recently, we have the Business Council on AI ethics and the Global Civil Society Organizations and Academic Network on AI ethics, and also the AI Supervisory Authorities Network. So through these different thematic networks, we connect the dots as the theme of this AI Governance Week, right? Connecting the right dots so that everyone can dialogue around the same table and to ensure the common understanding of each other practices. So the final one I would like to mention here is that UNESCO also developed the AI ethics impact assessment tool. So this is a tool that is available to organizations that are, for example, doing procurement of AI services and AI tools. And it guides the organizations with a common set of questions to look into when they assess the risks as well as the ethical impact of specific AI tools and to reach an ethical decision. So we're very happy that in Thailand we have strong partnership with ETDA, with TDRI, with NECTEC under NSTDA, NASTA, and we developed the Thailand Readiness Assessment Report on ethics of artificial intelligence.
Is this
Yeah.
rely on different standards and different policy of Thailand?
So it uses the unified methodology that is called the AI Readiness Assessment Methodology, and it looks into the current state of the AI ecosystem in Thailand. So it looks into, for example, how universities are ready to cultivate AI talent, what are the programs that are already available in schools and universities. It also looks into the investment ecosystem, the regulatory frameworks, and it charts a roadmap for Thailand to move ahead in ethical AI governance, right? So this is a national-owned process. We have been supporting ETA, we have been supporting TDRI, NSTDA, and we're very happy that ETA also took on the UNESCO AI Ethical Impact Assessment tool, the EIA tool, and developed its own tool on AI ethical impact assessment. So hopefully these will help Thai organizations to better understand how to apply these high-level recommendations and policies. Thank you.
We have something like this with other countries too?
Yes, thank you for asking the question. Actually, in the ASEAN region, we already did the same assessment, AI ethics readiness assessment for 8 Southeast Asian countries all over the world. So far, we have supported or are in the process of supporting over 100 countries to conduct this AI readiness assessment. Thank you.
Thank you. And now let's dive into some real world example. I would like to ask Erkai and IBM to give some examples. Could you please share one example where a global principle or framework was successfully put into real use and what made it work? Let's start from Erkai.
Let's start, yeah. That's a very good question. I guess it's a people's question. Or answer, should I say? Let me think. I think back in 2023, 2022, we have been involved in quite a lot of research projects, which demanded of us, obviously, technical knowledge. So those would have been, let's say, what we call European research projects, Horizon and so on. So it's a very specific budget within the European Union. for research. So we had quite a lot of those, but quite like streamlined, very safe, so many aspects. Then my director, he turned to me and he said, well, we need something more substantial in the sense of having a partnership from the sort of like, AI ecosystem, which means compute providers, universities, Global South, and so on. But somehow magically I kind of like pulled off this partnership with AWS. And we worked with the sustainability organization and with their startup organization, specifically for climate startups. So we created a fellowship with AWS where we basically said, hi climate startup, if you have an idea on how you could supercharge your activity with AI, apply for this fellowship and then we will work with you. So naively, we did that, and then we got a couple of hundred submissions, which we had no idea what to do with because they were out of 400. 380 were phenomenal. So then basically we got even more ambitious and we said, okay, let's go and present this at COP29 in, Azerbaijan, So we went there, we presented, and obviously it was a win. But then we walked into a workshop where, this random workshop where we basically, they were presenting some sort of a report from the indigenous communities. But it was a UN report, right? So me and my co-chair, Lisbeth from AWS, we had no idea what was happening in the room, but it was appealing, right? So we walked in and, indigenous, this and that. And then we sit there and then we said, wow, why don't we extend the fellowship to actually climate startups in indigenous communities, right? So can we actually find funders that actually have these types of companies in indigenous communities? And we pulled it off, and we did. We got incredible companies that were doing stuff in climate but could use AI. And we suddenly realized that it's not just startups that do work in that space, but also a lot of legal entities would be, NGOs and so on, cooperatives, something that we knew from the IRCAI side because our connection coming from the machine learning community and being connected, being part of the UN family through UNESCO gave us that knowledge at the surface, right? But then we had to translate those principles and that differentiation to the AWS leadership, which was not an easy sell, right? But then we did pull it off. And then all of these startups that we had in the fellowship that were sort of solving really interesting problems and now solving them with AI, we had to actually give them the context of our center. We had to sort of walk them through the UNESCO recommendation. We had to walk them through why we have chosen also a sub-call for indigenous communities and funders in that space. And basically why this is a people story is because we couldn't really tell them, oh, there's this non-binding policy and soft law type thing that UNESCO released, and it makes a lot of sense. And philosophers and machine learners have done it in a closed room, and it was called an ad hoc whatever meeting. We had to show these companies and the sort of like industrial partner AWS a hands-on approach, and we had to translate that to them. What does it mean to work with AI that would have some sort of repercussions through its actions in real life, based on ethical principles that need to be ingrained in the business itself. So that was, I think, an incredible learning journey for us, but also for the colleagues at AWS, which I think they really enjoyed because We have been, working with them for, I think, probably for the third or fourth year. But in any case, that sort of like people story, I think, for us, made that difference, where we can say, oh, we did articulate the recommendation in AI and ethics to companies, and they said, oh, of course, this makes a lot of sense. We're going to follow these principles, for example.
That was the example from the research project. So how about IBM? Do you have any good example?
Yeah, I think I'll lie with you. This is a great question. I want to start by giving you the context, right? From my belief, the high-level principle will become real when it's connected to the business use case. Okay, but before I come back to this context, I just want to share with you the journey of IBM in AI governance, right? So let's put this way: 10 years ago, right, no one talked about AI, right? So no headline news about AI capability. Of course, no such thing like ChatGPT or generative AI. And of course, the AI governance is not in any conversation at that time. And most of the research lab, right, we are working very hard in creating AI smarter, to make AI more intelligent. But at IBM that time, we start having a different conversation, right, which equally important, right? What if one day AI gets smarter and it's influence our decision? Okay, how are we going to confident that AI will make the right thing for us and for the humanity? So that's where trigger the starting point of the AI governance. From then to now, I think AI become pervasive. Many organizations start planning to scale the AI project from pilot project to the production. The problem is, they start realize that to move from pilot to production, they may face some kind of risk, AI ethics, regulatories, compliances, right, audit issue, privacy, so on and so forth. And they face difficulty to execute, right? And that is the most important. That's why the technology company like IBM, we build technology and tool framework to help the governance measurable, right? For example, audit testing, model kind of monitoring, transparency, explainability, or the auditability, so on and so forth. Then back to your question, one of the great example is the explainability principle on financial services. Okay, globally, when we talk about the principle of the explainability, AI explainability, is very important. It's very high level. But when you talk about financial services sector, it has to be very practical. Okay, so when you use the AI for things like credit scoring, fraud detection, or the customer decisioning, so the bank should be able to answer why and how that decision was made, and also they have to keep the record for audit. Okay,
Yes.
so what make it work is that you can see now from the high level principle is connected to the business risk, which is like client trust. If you're not doing well, you're gonna lose the client trust, and you may having a risk of the regulatory and compliances issue, and also financial fairness, right? So in summary, we have to ensure that the AI governance, the high level principle is translated into the very, very specific use case with control and accountability, and using technology that I mentioned, right, or framework to make the governance measurable, right? So, in summary, I think you have to move from the playbook to the run book, as I said, right? And if the AI governance is without workflow, it isn't governance. It is just the intention. That is my thought. That's why, back to the principle I said, right? The principle will become real only when it's connected to the business risk. Yeah.
Can we take a closer look from the private sector perspective? How does the company turn high-level principles into something engineers and product team actually do day to day?
Wow, that's the exciting question. All right, so from the high level principle from AI governance perspective, for the company, right, we have to produce a product, innovation, so on and so forth. How are we going to make sure that those kind of thing is infused in what we did, right? But theory is easy, right? Execution is not that easy.
Right.
So turning from the AI principle high level into the trustworthy AI is beyond the smarter technology, right? It is about the AI that we can truly trust, that can amplify the human potential. That's what I thought, right? When I think the recommendation is that the organization, the corporate, need to convert to the thing that I call the governance by design, right? Starting from ensuring that the AI governance is in the AI life cycle, from design to the data governance, right, to the AI model training and testing, to monitoring and audit, and also the retirement, right, of that AI model. Or even you have to ensure that the AI governance is in the product checklist, right, from the DevOps pipeline to the model card, right, which model that you are going to use in which product and for what, right? And then the approval gate, right? So you need to have the approval process to control as a control mechanism. And last but not the least, you need to have the resolution, right? If incident happens, how you respond to it. So I think those kind of stuff is very, very important, right? To ensure that you move from the high level AI principle to something that practical infused in your product and engineering. So that was my recommendation. Yeah, thanks.
Oh, that was a very good example that many organizations can also apply the same as what you have done at IBM. Now let's move from the organization level to the national level. Let me ask Mr. Din Chen again from UNESCO. How do you move a country from we endorse the principle to measurable national action?
Thank you for the question. I will give an example of a neighboring country of Thailand, Laos, right? Lao PDR. So UNESCO regional office in Bangkok, we cover several countries in Southeast Asia, including Laos. And we've been supporting Laos to revise its national science, technology, innovation policy. And another key area of our support is on teacher education. So a few years back, when the minister from Laos participated in the UNESCO Ethics of AI Global Forum in Slovenia, actually, we had to start from really the ground, because when we talked about, for example, doing a AI readiness assessment for Lao PDR, they were not initially convinced because they didn't see the necessity, right? Why would you do it? Their villages, they're not even connected to the internet, right? Lao PDR's context is a least developed country. So we had to do the advocacy from the very beginning by focusing on, how is the UNESCO recommendation on the ethics of AI relevant to a country like Lao PDR? So by articulating like the relevance of AI governance in relation to Lao PDR's ambition to graduate from the least developed country status, and hopefully they will very soon, and also their government's priority to enhance the quality of education by personalizing learning, by providing more tailored teacher support. We were able to move the needle forward. So we supported the Lao government to do their readiness assessment on ethics of artificial intelligence, and the report was launched in February 2026. And just this month, actually, through a very long process, we supported the Lao government to launch their new National Science, Technology, and Innovation Policy and Development Plan for 2026 to 2040. And including in that policy is also specific provisions on how they would like to set up their governance structure on AI. Another key milestone, together with the Science, Technology, Innovation Policy, is the new Lao PDR teacher policy. So the teacher policy builds on UNESCO work on supporting the development of teacher standards on ICT and AI competencies that is also based on the UNESCO AI competency framework for teachers and students. And after we develop these competency standard for teachers, we are also supporting the Lao Ministry of Education and Sports to develop continuous professional development modules for teachers. So we translate those standards and guidelines into specific teaching modules, right? So the teachers can take time within their professional development time to learn about how to integrate AI in learning design, in learning assessment, in delivery in classroom, right? And these continuous professional development modules will be integrated into the teacher training curriculum across the teacher training institutions in Lao PDR. And once these teachers are equipped with the relevant competencies to better use AI for contextualized teaching, for personalized learning, the students will benefit from enhanced competencies and be ready for the age of AI. So this is the one example we'd like to give, that we're supporting a least developed country to start really from the scratch, really not like understanding the importance to now like actually having policies and standards and translating that into capacity building, training, and learning.
So
Thank
I
you.
would say it was very successful in Laos.
Well, we will have to do some more impact assessment,
Okay.
but I think the preliminary results are actually really encouraging to say. Thank you.
Okay, and let me ask you more, Mr. Chen. And for this question, I would like to ask UNESCO and IBM, and both of you can discuss or exchange along as we go and we talk. Who should take the lead in closing the gap? Government, international organizations, or the private sector? So, what do you think? Who should be taking the lead in closing the gap?
I can start first.
Okay.
From my point of view, no single party can close the gap alone. It has to be co-governance, right? Set as the high-level context, right? The expectation is the government, right, have to set the policy to protect the public interest, and that is very, very important. While the international organization, like all of you here, is so important, right, to create the alignment, right, and legitimacy for other people, and of course, right, to bring along and share the principle and practice, and that's also extremely important. I think relevant to what you just mentioned on Lao PDR. And last but not the least, right, the private sector or even the organization, right, we need to ensuring that we execute it, right. We turn from the high level to the execution, make it work, right. That three things need to be happen. So put it this way, in a simple way, it has to be co-governance. Government set policy, right, or guardrail. International organization harmonize, right, and then industry operationalize. That's the three things that need to work hand in hand to make it work. Yeah.
Thank you for this question. I would just agree with my fellow panelists that it's a shared responsibility of AI governance. No one party can do it alone. And in addition to the three stakeholders that you just mentioned, I think also civil society organizations should also enter into the picture. They are actually important to ensure the accountability of governments, also everyone, international organizations, private sector, because they bring the voices of the civil society to the table, and they also reflect, for example, the perspectives of youth, young people, students. So yeah, in addition to these three, that I think my fellow panelists has already outlined their respective role, which I agree, is also civil society should not be forgotten. And also from the perspective of international organizations, I think another key point is that we do provide the networking platform by, for example, the Ethics of AI Global Forum, for example, the Observatory on AI Policy. So we facilitate the peer learning among the different countries so that they can learn from each other. Thank you.
So basically, all sectors have to work together, both government sector, international organization, and the private sector, right? Okay. Now let's turn to practical question. Where should countries actually begin? I would like to go back to Ms. Lucia Russo online from OECD, and I will also would like to ask the archive. But let's start from Ms. Lucia Russo. For countries that cannot simply copy a large framework like EU's framework, what is a realistic first step toward practical AI governance? So what is the first step that we can walk?
Thank you. So I think I would start responding to this question by highlighting that I think there is no single model for AI governance. And sometimes the discussion is framed as a choice between adopting comprehensive AI legislation or not having governance at all. But in practice, AI governance exists along a spectrum of policy instruments. And at one end, we have non-binding measures such as national strategies, voluntary codes of conduct, technical standards. And at the other end, we have binding instruments, which include legislations, including international legislation, regulations, and sector-specific requirements. So what I'm trying to say is that different countries are choosing different combinations of these instruments depending on their legal traditions, institutional capacity, policy priorities, and the maturity of their AI ecosystems. And also, you mentioned the EU AI Act, but I would also stress that we also see different regulatory architectures emerging. Some jurisdictions have chosen horizontal AI legislation that applies across sectors, while others are embedding AI governance within existing sectoral regulatory frameworks, building on the expertise and mandates of sectoral regulators. So in practice, many countries are combining these horizontal and sector-specific approaches alongside non-binding instruments such as guidance and voluntary commitments. And all of this is to say as well that this diversity is not a weakness. It reflects the reality that AI is being developed and deployed in very different contexts. And so I think, as I mentioned in the earlier response, the objective from our point of view should not be to converge on a single governance model, but to ensure that different approaches remain interoperable and they're all guided by these shared objectives of trustworthy AI. So I think when we think about the first step, the question should perhaps not be which AI law should we adopt, but what policy environments do we already have, and what mix of governance instruments is most appropriate for our context. And again, going back to the principle in our recommendation, we do have a recommendation which talks which encourage governments to shape an enabling policy environment for trustworthy AI. And this is deliberately broader than regulation, because it recognizes that effective AI governance depends not only on legal rules, but also on the institutions, standards, innovation policies that were also mentioned, the skills, the regulatory capacity, and coordination across governments. So I think many countries don't start from scratch. They have many important building blocks in place. Even looking at the legal instruments, existing frameworks on data protection, consumer protection, cybersecurity, product safety, sector-specific regulation often provide a strong foundation already. And so I think the first step would be to understand where those frameworks already address AI-related issues and where they may need to be adapted and where new measures should be required. So I think that would be the first step. And then I think what is also important once that picture is clearer is to have a coordination mechanism between government bodies and across ministries and regulators, because AI governance is cross-cutting by nature. And so responsibilities, and we have also heard it already, are often spread across ministries that are responsible for digital affairs, but also finance, health, education. And so here, I would say that it is necessary to have clear leadership and effective coordination to lead this process. And then in terms of implementation measures, as I said, there are different architectures, and also what we have seen recently is that countries are also focusing on emerging risks. We have at the OECD developed an AI incident monitor of incident and hazards, and these data also suggest that, for instance, deepfakes and online scams or disinformation, misinformation have all increased as concerns, and incidents have materialized. So they also provide legislators with indications of where action might be required. So we see that we also have actions turning to specific risk instead of across sectors or horizontal legislation. And so the implementation measures, after you've gone through what I mentioned, checking your environment, understanding your existing legislation, should be to understand where you need to act the most. And this can take the form of risk assessment procedures for public sector AI, or regulatory sandboxes that allow innovation while generating that regulatory learning. And so this can also help build institutional experience and strengthen public confidence and develop capacity over time before, if you want to introduce in comprehensive governance arrangements when they are needed. So I think the question should really be whether a country eventually builds a governance system that is coherent, proportionate, and adapted to its own circumstances. And because we've seen, and we will continue to see, that countries choose different policy instruments and different implementation pathways, and which is entirely appropriate. What matters is that these choices are made deliberately and based on evidence, and with a clear understanding of how they contribute to trustworthy AI while supporting innovation. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm wondering, once countries take the first step, the next question is, how do we know we are making progress? Can we ask you more? Ms. Russell, what role do share measurement and metrics play in closing the gap? And how do we know practice is improving? How can we measure?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. Yes, you touch upon another great point, and of course, this is again something that at the OECD we value very much, because good governance depends on evidence, as I mentioned, and if we don't measure implementation, we cannot know where policies are making the effects they hoped to achieve. So here, again, I would like to bring to the attention of the audience the OECD.ai Policy Observatory, where we have a set of data and evidence from across the AI ecosystem. We have a database of national AI policies and regulatory developments, the OECD.ai Policy Navigator. And then we have data based on real-time or quasi-real-time data based on mostly alternative sources like Preqin, which is a database of private investment, or LinkedIn for AI talent, or research publications that depict really a picture of a common evidence based on the key AI indicators to understand how AI is evolving in their country, and also together with the AI Policy Navigator, how governance is evolving alongside it. So you can go in and see for each country that reports to the OECD.ai Policy Navigator, which is really government-backed in database. So we have national contact points that contribute to the knowledge. You can look at the page, and then immediately you would have also indicators, related indicators on across these variables that I've just mentioned. And so I think that the observatory really has the objective to turn what we discussed, this fragmentation, this fragmented information, into evidence that then governments can act upon. And so also by learning from each other, they can also understand better where they might have more emphasis in their policy initiatives. And then I would like to mention as well another product that we have is the OECD.ai Index. And again, this is a more solid and structured exercise to have a composite measurement framework that support countries in understanding how they are implementing the OECD AI recommendation. And this is really built on a set of common indicators across the OECD members, and we hope to be able to expand it to other countries soon, and organized alongside the key, the 5 policy recommendations: structure, policy, environment, skills, and the labor market, and international cooperation. And so this index, again, allows countries, rather than ranking them really, is to help them understand where they are making progress across these 5 areas, where gaps remain, and where additional policy attention may be needed. And so, again, this is one key product we have put out because, as I mentioned at the beginning, this implementation without measurement is really not something you can afford, because you need to know whether you are on the right track. And then maybe allow me just to expand a bit more about the incident monitor. This is built on publicly reported AI incident from media, from reputable media outlets from around the world. And then it uses a classifier, an AI, for understanding whether a certain reported media was actually an AI incident based on a definition that was defined by an expert group, a multi-stakeholder expert group on AI incident at the OECD. I think this is, again, something that is very important because we often talk about risks when we talk about AI, but the important thing that this tool allows to do is to understand what these risks materialize. So it's not just in abstract, but understanding where in the real world we see, for instance, more bias risks emerging, or as I was mentioning, around deepfakes. And so that is important because it helps governments understanding where safeguards may be insufficient, and so inform policy responses. And so these incidents become a mechanism for continuous improvement. And so I think, again, the key point here is, when we talk about measurement, is to create this feedback loop between the policy and the practice, and help governments refine their approaches, and countries also learn from one another about what actually works. And so I think in terms of also again, the measurement, the key to measurement is really also this support to accountability, because it can also support, again, learning and understanding which practices work. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And now we come to the last of this session. So let me ask the final question. I would like to ask each of you to leave us with a brief closing thought. If you could give the policymakers in this room one action to take home, what would it be? Let's start from UNESCO.
Thank you for this closing question. Okay, one word: consistency. That I mentioned from the beginning, that I'd like to reiterate again. There needs to be consistency in the policy. There needs to be consistency in investment, in infrastructure, and the human capital that is necessary for AI governance. There needs to be consistency in the institutions, in the governance structures. So I'll end there.
Okay.
I would probably, my blue sky project would have probably be to create policies that would eventually result in more PhDs in the AI space. Therefore, more AI startups or companies, therefore more sort of like economic value that would come back. But I think probably most likely education, research, and then entrepreneurship, I'd say.
Yeah, for me, bridging the gap from the high-level principle to trustworthy is extremely important, right? Failing to do that, we are going to create not just a bad AI, right, but also losing trust, right? Imagine if citizen, employee, customer, or regulator lose trust, it will slow down the adoption, and innovation will get harder to achieve. So my humble recommendation is one word: visibility. So I would recommend the regulator on national level to create the things we call national AI use case registry to understand what is the use case, right? And then also having the risk assessment playbook, those equally important. So before we regulate everything, we need to have visibility, what AI system is being used, how it's measured, right? What is the impact? What is the incident resolution, so on and so forth. I think we need to have that. Once we have clear visibility, we actually can governance what matter the most. That is my recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. And Miss Lucia Rosso, please give us the brief closing thought.
Yeah, I think I would say again, start from your national context, invest in people and the skills to increase the technical understanding of AI, but also increasing AI literacy. I think trust has been mentioned as a key word here, as the leading word. I believe that then determines as well how much people will use AI, and then how much firms will use AI, and from that, how much AI will lead societal and economic change, but also build the mechanism to learn from what you do in practice. So the evidence-based, the monitoring, and as I was saying, also this feedback loop, so that governments can learn and that also all the actors in the ecosystem can be at the table for this conversation, so that the stakeholders can learn together. Thank you.
Thank you. And please join me in giving a warm round of applause to our panelists. We have shared a very insightful discussion, and today we have heard that AI governance is not only about having framework, but about turning them into real action. I hope everyone can take away some practical ideas from this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So please give a round of applause. And so now, distinguished guests, before we have a lunchtime, anyone, if you have any question right now in this time, please do not hesitate to raise your hands up. And we have our staff to serve mic to you. Anyone who have any questions? All right. If no more, please give a round for one more time, please. And so please stand up to take the photo group shot together. Thank you so much for sharing us, and that we get a lot of in any of the experience and solution as well to elevate our knowledge as well. So distinguished guests, in this time, if you have any question after that for the lunchtime, you can talk with our key speaker when we have the lunchtime together. And so now we would like to say thank you with our strong partners such as Amazon Web Services, AWS, Google Thailand, Huawei Technologies Thailand, Tilike and Gibbons Digital Solutions and Botnoy Group, and all distinguished guests for the afternoon session. We will come back once again on 1:30. So we hope all of you have a pleasant day and enjoy your lunchtime. And so we would like to inform for all the viewers via online right now in this time as well. For the afternoon session, we will come back once again. This is AI Governance Week 2026. Hope you enjoy and have a pleasant day. Thank you so much. ขอบคุณค่ะ